Number one, thank you for being here. My name is Rafael Castañeda. I'm the SVP of Partnerships and Workforce Development at MedCerts. Chances are you've never heard of MedCerts, which is okay. It's actually quite common. This is an organization that started in 2009 in Livonia, Michigan. If you don't know where that is, it's west of Detroit. I had to look it up. I don't have very good sense. But it started off working primarily with people coming through the MyCAA, Army Cool, American Job Center / WIOA demographic. And so kind of everything that's built around that, including price points, length, the way that the programs are deployed, primarily in an online didactic portion, and then depending upon the program, there might be a residential experience that's done in an acute care setting. It's all been designed around that non-traditional student who has a family, who may be transitioning from the military, maybe he's active duty in the military, maybe their spouse is active duty in the military, or maybe they're coming through an American Job Center and they're like, I just need to do something different, but I don't know what. Maybe they don't think they can go to a college for this type of experience. So that's kind of how MedCerts was born. From 2009 to 2020, it was that mom and pop shop servicing that demographic. Did great. In 2020, we joined Stride Learning. If you don't know what that is, that used to be K-12. So it's the largest private K-12 entity in the country. And so what we've built over the last 2.5 years is what we call the K-to-Career strategy. So regardless of where a student finds us from, military, American Job Center, employer-sponsored model, Google, or now K-12, we can incorporate these training programs that are affordable, delivered in the right way, delivered with a high level of technology associated with them, so it keeps the students very much engaged, and then ultimately leads to a nationally recognized certification, which, as we all know, I'm assuming are very much in demand at the moment. In the last few months, we've built what's known as Partner Solutions. Partner Solutions is where we start to expand out beyond allied health, primarily keeping our really close focus on those types of programs, because the 55 types of certifications that we offer in allied health and health IT are critical to the allied health workspace at the moment, right? You might have heard, vacancy, crisis, emergency when it comes to frontline workers in the allied health space. And if you visit an acute care setting, you would have experienced that firsthand. Hospitals are actually closing down functions, from surgery centers to dental offices to medical assistant functionalities, because there's a lack of workers in this space. So our goal is to get as many people as we can from wherever they came from into an affordable training program so that we can get them into the job market, right? Into the workforce. And Partner Solutions is part of that. So as we go through this, feel free to interrupt me. Happy to answer any questions that you have, but what we're here to talk about, I think, is relatively nascent in the space. Does anyone know how many certification training programs are available for people to go through today? Throw a number out there.
900.
900? Thank you. It's over 1 million. There's 1 million training programs available in the market today. So let me ask you a question. You're thinking about going back to school. You jump onto Google. You type in medical assistant. You're going to get thousands of return results. Which one do you choose? And why?
One of the first three.
Probably one of the first three, right? And a majority of those are actually colleges and universities, because many colleges and universities offer these programs. So part of our Partner Solutions approach is to say, not only do we offer a high level quality from a program architecture perspective, a tremendous amount of XR infused into the actual curriculum itself, a nationally recognized certification exam with a recognized certification authority, but we're now taking it one step further. We're going to map the skills inside each one of those training programs to the labor market data and help employers and learners connect those dots and actually go through how to either drive your salary expectations, because you might have a skill that you're not being paid for as a learner, right? From an employer perspective, what do you pay? And then ultimately, how do you choose out of 1 million different options, which ones are quality as defined by certain things, and which ones are not? I think that's a really important part of this conversation. So I think it's relatively nascent, but if you look at what's happening in the space, this is what's going on. They're saying, that's great. You You got awesome stuff. We love it. Prove it. Anyone else experiencing that in your work? Prove it. That's what's happening. Governments, employers, learners have all made it very clear we are not going to go into debt for this. Right? We are not going to go into a program, whether that's a degree or certification trade program, where we don't have some real clear outcome from an employment perspective at the end. And we're not going to do it for 4 years, right? So colleges and universities at the moment are like, what do we do? So you have pioneers like WGU, skills architecture, right? This is all now becoming very, very current and super relevant. This is Skillify from Lightcast. We're going to talk about that because we are partnering with Lightcast to go through this. This is the Kirkpatrick business model from the federal government Department of Labor on how you determine quality. Is that not just screen government to you? Right? Like this whole matrix here in the middle, right? How do you measure this? It feels like, shoots and ladders. I don't know if you guys know what that means. But I don't even know what to make of that. Anyone familiar with JFF, Jobs for the Future? They actually purchased a thing called the EQOS, which is an education quality score, right? It's the key metrics of quality assurance for certification training programs. And they have the ear of the Department of Labor and the Department of Education at the federal level to say, you have to start applying actual quality metrics to these million options. Otherwise, you're going to spend another $800 million a year in WIA alone. And employers and students out of all this training, we don't know, are they any better at their job than when they started? I don't know. For us, I'm like, that's scary because I don't want to be lumped in to the non-quality actors. I want to make sure that med-certs, both in allied health, health IT, and other potential disciplines, are recognized as high quality because we connect skills to jobs to actual work, right? They got better at what they did after they took this training. So really the thing today is prove it, right? You have to prove it. So how do you do that? We partnered with Coursera. Historically, our programs are known as programs. They're comprised of multiple courses inside of a program. So think of like a microcredential, right? We start everybody off with professionalism in allied health, customer service in the tech environment, and then we move them into things like DMP, MedTerm, and then what's known as like the capstone or certification course, right? And we map all of those, every single one of the programs, to a nationally recognized certification body. So for medical assistant, it's the NHA, National Healthcare Association. For surgical tech and sterile processing, it's the NCCT. For pharmacy, it's the PTCD. These are the authorities when it comes to those disciplines and those certifications. So this is not allied health according to med-certs. No one cares, right? This is allied health according to our version of an accrediting body in the non-credit space. Okay, really, really important. But I think we need to go a step further. So that was historically what we've done, is we had these programs, and they were large and arduous, and they led to a certification exam. Like, this is like serious. Not that this isn't serious, but we partnered with Coursera to build what are known as specializations. Because you might know, or you yourself might be interested in thinking like, maybe pharmacy tech could be an interesting thing for me to do. I don't know. We see these as kind of like starter programs. We don't really see these as like full certification programs, but Coursera was a perfect partner for us because they can build smaller specializations that people can kind of get used to. Do I want to do this? If you don't like people and fluids and chaos, allied health might be a bad career. Just, I am not an allied health person. For those people that are, you want to start them off with something that builds fundamentals. Do you want to do this, right? So this might be $50. No one's going into debt for $50. Kick the tires, they can see, is this something that I want to do? There's an expert instructor available, and we launch these through the Coursera platform, which gives us access to 107 million users worldwide, right? We did this in June. What I love about this is down here at the bottom, we actually make it very clear the skills you're going to learn, or you'll gain, right? If you take this program. Liquid prescriptions, tablet capsule prescriptions, human anatomy, etc., right? It's a good way to start things off. But what I like about this, specifically with Coursera, is not only the reach, it speaks to the demographic of the student. You can get this done in 1 month and 10 hours a week. You can can then determine, do you want to be in pharmacy? Because if you don't, why would you go get a degree, right? Let's try this first, maybe. This is also great for people coming out of the K-12 space. You got nursing club, you got allied health club, you got all these clubs in high school. It started as early as junior high. I have a 7th grader, and she's now being experienced, and I get to go and like say stuff to the school that she loves. Not really, right? The dad's up there talking about this. It's like, how bored can you be? But what I like about this is it's actually good for beginners. It's flexible, and you're building skills early on, right? Imagine for a moment if you could come out of high school, graduate, sit for a certification exam at the age of 18, once you get your high school diploma, become a certified medical assistant, go earn a really respectable wage right out of high school, and then when you're ready, go to college. Great, right? That's a perfect student, I think, in my mind. But where does it start? You start with a higher level credential, or do you start with something that's very, very flexible, beginner level, and see if they even want to do this, right? So what we were able to do is build these types of programs, and this is what the full catalog looks like. So we're really starting to like push this out, not just in very specific like certification focus, but also across things like the skin, bones, and muscles, right? Gross. Gotta be honest. Again, I'm not an allied health person, but if you're interested in knowing that, cool. Kelly has my phone. We also took this to the place where learners want to use it. So instead of the Oculus headset that you're seeing a lot going on now, right, where you have to have a $300 headset, we've built an app where it's augmented reality right on the student's phone. And when I do go and talk to those middle schoolers in my daughter's school, they couldn't care less about, you know, like what the job outcome is. Their parents are like, "Oh, tell me about the job and the college credit and all the, you know, tell me about that," right? That's what the parents like. What the students like is augmented reality, where they can do it on their phone. And what I tell them is like, hey, listen, I'm gonna sound super nerdy right now, but just bear with me. Instead of spending 2 hours tomorrow on TikTok, spend 2 hours on this app, learning what the human skin is made of. Just learn those basic things as you go through, right? It's a really cool environment, and it's the technology that they like, because on their phone, it actually projects an avatar, that we stand right here, and it decouples the human body. Really cool for learners, right? So we're starting with starter specializations, map to skills for people to be able to experience. Do I want to do this? If I do, great. Let's go ahead and move into something more robust, like a certification training program, and then ultimately continue on into a degree. That's the pathway that we see. And if you see some of these reviews, you know, 9 people, okay, but you know, 66 here, people generally tend to like it. We're not perfect, but we got some high 4-point scores out of 5, right? So we'll continue to build this catalog with our partner at Coursera, mapping skills to certain elemental learning components, specializations, starter programs to be able to get people like, do you want to be a medical coding biller? Do you want to do that? Because ICD-10 is not fun if that's not what you want to do, right? So be very clear on that kind of thing right away. So that was our first thing with Coursera, mapping the content to skills for people to be able to access very, very economically, quickly, 1 to 4 weeks. As you can see, there's some of the bigger ones are like 3 to 6 months. But there's a lot that you can learn and determine, is this what I want to do as a career, right? So I think pretty exciting stuff. This is where we really started to dive into the program. So those were specializations. Now we look at courses inside of a program. And I don't know, you guys might know, surgical technology, pretty hot career. Right? Pretty hot career. If you don't know what that is, it's the person that hands the surgeon in the surgical theater all the tools, right? So in my mind, like, I want that person to get it right, right? If you've ever been in a surgical theater, it's very, 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 very stressful. You know, they're performing on a patient. You have to know how many times you gotta wash your hands on each one. Like, it's a lot of stuff, right? Before you go into it. So we started off with, let's look at one of our most robust, popular programs, surgical technologies. Let's just look at some benchmarks. This is a great career for somebody to get into, right? And then if they want to move into nursing, I saw a sign-on bonus for a triage nurse a couple months ago that was $75,000. A sign-on bonus. That's a nice career. Now, is everyone going to do that? Probably not, right? But on average, like Cass tells us, this is an $80,000 plus occupation. Not too bad. Right? right? Let's do that right now. So we started with this. It's really interesting because when you map the labor market information to what's actually being taught in the programs, they don't always 100% line up, right? Which I think is actually really helpful. So these are the skills that Lightcast told us were being looked for in job postings. This is what's being sought. This is what's being taught in our program, right? So think about this: BLS, CST. That's usually that's what they have, right? An associate's degree, CST, RN, sepsis, nursing, BLS again. What we saw, or what we provide: operating rooms, surgery, surgical procedures, surgical technology, instrumentation, sterilization, techniques, procedure, services, right? So you might say, well, those two things don't line up. First of all, it's really good to know. It actually made me really excited because when you look at, this is kind of hard to read, sorry about that, but when you look at where our program teaches here, these fundamental areas, where the larger stuff that you're going to find in a degree, specifically a CST degree, is here. So what this allows us to do is build a program that doesn't cannibalize from the degrees being offered by CST and the associate's level. That's actually super helpful for a student to know. All of our programs articulate for prior learning assessment credit into one of our college partner degree programs. I can now go to them and say, I'm not taking anything from your area, right? Like, MedCerts is not cannibalizing. We are supplementing and complementing from a curricular, skill-based perspective what a student needs to know at a fundamental level and then a more advanced level, right? That's really, really important because if a student's going to transfer from our program into a degree, they've built the fundamentals. Now let's go do the more arduous work, the stuff that's at the degree level. That's really, really important. And the current PLA transfer process today, a lot of times is like, what did you take? We're going to give you some electives. So chances are you're likely already taking courses that you've already taken and paid for, again, just at a different organ, just at a different institution. And I don't know about you, but from a med-term AMP perspective, I know there's 206 bones in the human body. I don't think that's changed in several hundred millennia, right? Like, pretty certain it's kind of always been that way. So why would I need to take it again, right? I've already taken it once. Let's take it one step further. Let's go into the skill details. So then, how do we help the learner know this is going to be beneficial for us? So if you look on the right-hand side, in-demand skill occupations, or in-demand skills for the occupations, taught and sought, job postings, growth, salary boosting, and then skill significance, right? So we can start to actually line out operating room, very important. Surgery, very important. Surgical procedures, critical. Surgical technology, notice this here. This is a salary boosting skill, right? So a learner can look at that and go, if I've got this skill from this certification program, this employer, or the 31,168 job postings nationwide, could theoretically get me something that I could boost my salary with. So one might ask the question, like, if I'm already employed there as maybe like a nurse, an RN, and I want to get into triage nursing, does it make sense to start by pursuing a certification in surgical technology, as opposed to going back to a degree that might teach you the same things? This might be an opportunity to boost your skills by understanding surgical technology. It's understanding surgical instrumentation, calipers. That's pretty much the only word I know in surgery. There's calipers, and there's sponges, and there's knives, I'm assuming, but that's pretty much all I know. But if somebody knows that, those skills can actually boost their salary. So it's definitive, right? It brings employers and learners together to go, what skills do you have that are fundamental? What skills that you might need later on if you go back to college and our tuition assistance policy supports that? Great, let's transfer this into this and let's build those skills and potentially up your compensation, right? Or an employer might say, anybody with those skills, we want to provide them with additional compensation so we can keep them, right? Because a lot of employers, 20,930 31,168 job postings are looking for people like that have those skills. So if they're not happy with their current employer, somebody else is paying more, or they have a better environment, or whatever, there's a sign-on bonus or some issue, employers could be losing people with skills that they desperately need to fill their frontline roles in the surgical environment, right? Could be something that's very interesting for employers to see. So this starts to give us the actual, like, definitive nature of how to map skills. But then we take it a little bit deeper, right, for the academics in the room. Great, a lot of stuff on that side. So we did 2 of our courses out of the Surg Tech program. There's 4 courses in the program. We started with our Professionalism in Allied Health, which is a bedside manner, a soft skills type course, and our Surgical Tech Capstone course, which is the course they take before they go sit for the NCCT certification, the TSC. And what we found was 120 skills in the ST course, 27 in the professionalism course. Now, I don't know if anyone has had an opportunity where you've gone into a healthcare environment, but it's stressful. People are concerned about everything. You have a loved one that's there. This, I think, is dramatically dramatically kind of ignored a little bit in that environment, right? A lot of employers, big hospital systems are saying, we need people with people skills, soft skills, we need those. And whether you like the term soft skills or not, not to me, but these are the types of skills that you're looking at. Accountability, ethical standards, hygiene, interpersonal, right? Professionalism, teamwork. Those are KPIs for any job, aren't they? Right? Especially hygiene, accountability, ethical standards. Like, these are really important skills that people have, but we can now measure those inside of that course. And then it continues on, right? You can just see the list. And allied healthcare professionals, specifically people in a surgical environment, they're going to start to recognize forceps. That's enough. That's the caliber. That forceps. That's what that is. You're going to see all the skills and the words. They're going to start to recognize this. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea, but I'm assuming an expert does, right? So you can start to see things as they go across. A student can come in with a digital resume and say, these are the skills that I can exhibit because I took this course or this program. That's pretty cool, in my opinion. And it continues into by category, right? So not only is it an allied health component, it's also got other components: business, design, engineering, media, law and regulation. Usually a good idea to follow the law, in my opinion, right? So like having those types of cosmetic skill sets inside of a program that somebody's going to be exposed to, and then being able to specifically and definitively line those out for someone. This is almost like a better resume than any that I've seen in my career. Somebody walked in with this and says, this is what I can do. Cool. That's great. And you have the national certification, and you're going to be thinking about going to college later on. This feels like a very big hit, right? As opposed to a resume that you read and they try and tell you what they did. These are the kinds of things I think they're very, very, very powerful. Just all the way on down by category. Physical and inherent abilities. How do you measure that outside of an interview? Must be able to lift 20 pounds on a job description. Not sure that really tells us anything. Science, and it goes on and on. Environment, business, law, economics, design. You know what's interesting is when we talk to our college partners about the types of students that are transferring from our programs into their degree programs, you know what's interesting is actually most of the students are transferring into business degrees. I thought that was interesting. I was like, that's weird. Why not health sciences or something along those lines? But they don't always necessarily want to utilize the certification training for their ultimate career, because they might want to be somebody who, wants to run the hospital. Awesome. Let's enable them. Let's empower them. So we want to give people a wide diaspora of skills that they can exhibit specifically. If you put all of these onto a resume, who's reading that? Right? And is the algorithm that we look for in resumes now, are they actually going to start pulling this out? Right? Probably not. Would you even think about pediatrics in a surgical theater? I wouldn't. And then you see it and you're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about law, regulation, and compliance? Hospital healthcare employers spend billions a year on errors and additional insurance. Right? If somebody makes a mistake in the surgical environment, who's responsible? The hospital. Right? And it continues. Change management, energy, marketing. We even have some uncategorized stuff, hydrogen peroxide. Like I figured that would be a chemical, but whatever. So I guess what I'll do is, kind of spend the next 5 minutes talking about this and see if we have questions. What are we trying to do, and why does anybody in here care, right? Or anybody anywhere care? So the first thing we're trying to do is let's focus on learner skills. Let's focus on skills. Because we focus on skill attainment as the student progresses in their life, regardless of where they are, whether they're coming back for a certification after a master's degree, whether they're coming out of high school and they were in the nurses club and they think they want to be an RN, but there's a 2-year wait list at the local college, and what am I going to do between then and now? I guess I could go work in retail or hospitality or something, and those are wonderful careers, but what if they just want to get a certification and start working in the local hospital for a couple of years, and then take advantage of that employer's tuition assistance policy to then transfer into a degree? Feels like a good use of time. I don't know what you guys were doing at the age of 18, but I was not a certified technologist. Now, obviously it's up to the employer to determine if they want to hire an 18-year-old certified technologist, right? But many employers that we're seeing today are creating early talent pipelines into their open jobs, specifically at the frontline level. So yes, apprenticeships, yes, internships. I think you were saying that employers kind of define them all as the same thing, even though they're very unique, right? Like when we think of an apprenticeship, we think like Department of Labor registered apprenticeship. Okay. Not just something you made up and called it an apprenticeship. Okay. So empowering employers to also understand who's coming into their ecosystem and what skills, exhibitable skills do they actually have, right? So that skill exhibition. You got skills? Great, prove it. Really, really important in today's training environment, in my opinion. Because really the answer or the question is this, is of all of this, we have 70,000 alumni. Do those alumni actually get better at what they do? Or did they just pass a test? I don't know the answer to that question. So we need to answer that question, right? Yes, pass the test, get the certification, hang it on the wall, awesome. But you have to be able to show the skills. And then those skills relate to compensation, and what you and the employer can agree on, right? It might be a little high or a little low, but it takes the guesswork out. We want to save them time, right? So when an employer goes, good Lord, there's a million of these things. Who are we going to choose? Who do you know at such and such a place? Great. Maybe consider somebody that can prove that skills are learned through their training programs. That might be an option, right? I believe that we can do skill mapping across allied health, health IT, and I also think technology, trades, hospitality, automation, or aviation, automotive, manufacturing, anywhere that requires a certification, you should map skills from that, right? So if I go get an AWS Solutions Architect certification, how do you know that I'm going to be good about building your cloud environment? Until it fails, right? Like, how do you know? Well, you take an S3, you take this bucket, people might say, I don't know what that means. Most employers don't. So I think it's really important to do this across multiple certification disciplines. We are trying to build our brand, continue to build our brand with partner solutions, right? We want partners, employers, colleges, universities, workforce agencies, and entities all view us as a reliable and viable solution. So that's part of this. The regulatory landscape, like we talked about in the very beginning, the JFFs of the world, they have the ear of the Department of Education, of the Department of Labor. They're going to continue to say, we have to have some mechanism to determine quality. We have to. And I think that that's really important. And so we're just going to volunteer for it. We're going to do it. Might not go well, but we're going to do it, right? Because it's really important to get out in front of that regulatory landscape. And then if you've been in education for a period of time, you know that there was this thing 10 years ago called online for-profit education. Everyone remember that? Okay. we want to avoid that in any way possible, because the reputation that has persists today. So did we learn anything from that? Massive failure. Did we do something different from that massive failure? I think when you can prove that your training programs lead to skills that are critical in the work environment, that's something different. Not just a degree that somebody says I got, but it's not recognized, but I didn't learn any skills from it, right? That's really, really important. And then lastly, and kind of, it should have been the first bullet point, it's just kind of the right thing to do, so that kind of makes it easy, to be honest with you. So we're going to continue to build skill mapping across our entire portfolio of allied health and health IT, and then obviously as we talk to other partners who do other types of certification training, whether that's tech, trade, manufacturing, etc., hopefully incorporate those types of training certification programs into this mapping as well, and partner with the Coursera's and the Lightcasts of the world to prove that these are the skills the learner is going to be exposed to and ultimately should be able to exhibit in the working environment, and give employers more of a peace of mind to know that of the hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars at this point that they're paying into education as benefit, right? The guilds, the InStrides, the all campuses, the workforce edges, the ed assists, everyone knows those groups. Employers are spending tens of millions of dollars on upskilling their staff, and they should be able to say, after that expense, these folks are more skilled than they were when they started. They should be able to prove that. And this is now the question, what I call the Q&I, questions and impressions. I would love to hear from you guys. Like, is this nuts? What do you think? Is it going to fail? Do you completely disagree? Obviously, happy to open it up for that as well, or just regular questions. Yeah.
I'm Natasha Nace from San Diego State University. I talked to Kelly.
Okay.
A couple questions, so forgive me. The EQOS. So can you clarify? Did you say you are using them for quality assurance for your?
No, we are not.
Okay.
We've asked them to evaluate our programs, but I did some work at JFF for a period of time, and the EQOS was something that has recently come into that ecosystem. I believe that will be a tool, a measurement stick at some point in the not too distant future to do exactly what we're talking about here. So we're trying to get out ahead.
Perfect. And then how you got into this, and then I was talking to Kelly about some ideas you have for international students.
Sure. How I got into this, or how MedSurge got into this?
Maybe both.
Okay. I actually got into this because I started off in finance out of undergrad, and I was a political science major. So connect those dots, right? Like, didn't go to law school, let's go do finance. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And when you think back on it over time, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, okay. So started out in there and then moved to education, working with non-traditional students back in the early 2000s. And so from there, it just kind of like evolved forward into a place where if everyone is competing for the same demographic of students, we're really not helping anyone. So our goal is to supplement and complement what colleges and universities are doing, right? So we have 120 academic partners that are providing our catalog of allied health programs to their demographics in a co-branded way. So instead of a MedSurge going in to San Diego and saying, we're going to take ad space away from you, or we're going to position our programs right alongside your degrees, it's not the same thing at all. And even as a purveyor of certification training programs, and I said this in public on LinkedIn, so I can prove it, right? Is that even as a purveyor of certification training programs, I still believe that a degree for social capital and for long-term financial stability, we know this for a fact, it's been proven, a degree is your best bet for it. So we just want to slide in right underneath what you're doing and send you as many students as we possibly can who are ready to transfer into a degree and continue their educational journey. And hopefully their employers pay for both of those, or at least offset the cost for both, right? So why we're doing this is to fill a void, right? 2 million students per year, every year for the last 12 years in a row have said, I'm not going to college right in high school. I think last year was 1.8, right? So what are they doing? They're looking for another solution because they voted with their feet, right? So what we're trying to do is say like, hey, come to us from any solution, but what's best is if we partner with colleges and universities across the country who already have employer partner networks in the healthcare space, sharps, right? Those are the types of partnerships where we're providing the content and you are the institution that's providing the education. So that's why we're trying to really to promote this forward is out of the million partners that you can choose from, us and everybody else, they're all great, I'm sure. I can prove that our training program leads to skills that an academic environment would appreciate, would see from an andragogical perspective that adults are learning these things, from a pedagogical perspective, students that are under the age of 18 are learning these skills and can then go into the workforce, because that just makes your relationship with your employer partners all that much stronger, right? And then ideally, once they graduate with that certification, if they come back into your degree programs, you've now benefited from that student twice. So instead of bachelor's, master's, why not try certification bachelor's or certification associates and then continue them on the pathway? What a great story, right? So what we're trying to do is partner by providing solutions as opposed to cannibalizing, which I think is, I would hope, is refreshing. Does that answer the question, or did I like wait?
And how long have they been around?
Since 2009.
You get some great programs in IT, cybersecurity, and cloud computing also. How does that tie to medical side?
That's a great question. I mean, you get some powerful things
in those three areas.
It's a great question. I've always been mystified by that, to be honest with you. I'm like, so are we? Because if you look at this, we got our 20 smartest people together to come up with this, right? Just okay, like what does that mean? Medical certs, maybe, right? How do you get tech certs from med certs, right? Well, I think it started off into health IT, where you're going to see the ICD-10s, we don't do anything with Epic or anything along those lines, but like what a HEMA does and a variety of things. Like, I don't think any of us would want to go to a health environment that didn't have a very strong tech ecosystem, right? From a HIPAA perspective or a PII perspective, like let's go ahead and make sure this stuff's not written on paper. So it started that way, but again, I asked the questions like, why does someone go to MedCerts to choose an AWS Solutions Architect cert or a CompTIA cert, learn Java or learn Python or some other language? Why not go straight to Cisco and get a CCNA? Why not go to one of the 25 or 30 high quality boot camps, right? And we have two sibling companies, Galvanize and Tech Elevator, that do this type of work. The problem that I've seen is that the way that it's delivered is tech only, right? Does anyone know who Nick Burns is? Your computer guy, Jamie Fallon from the Saturday Night Live skits? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? No, okay. So Nick Burns was this guy who was in IT who was just rude to everybody, right? He could fix your computer. He was rude to everybody. So we started off the same program out in architecture with customer service and tech environment. What a refreshing way to start that career, right? So that somebody who's helping you in the tech environment knows the bedside manner, knows the soft skills. And that's what I think when massive tech companies come to us to buy these tech certs from med certs, why they like that, because the certifications are wrapped in a larger experience that starts everyone off with customer service or professionalism, right? And takes them through that experience so that as they work with other human beings, there's a synergistic positive solution as opposed to a Nick Burns.
Even though the university is not anything to do with medical.
Not really. But I would assume that most allied health environments have some sort of cloud-based solution architecture needed, right? So I think it really kind of depends. But like ICD-10, that's health IT, right? But how are you building the rest of your cloud-based solution? That's the other piece to it, right? So to be honest with you, we're a little mystified, but we're looking into it. I think
the look on your face when I asked.
Yeah, it's like, I'll be honest, like we knew that was going to happen. Like, no, we had no idea, right? So I think that this becomes the actual business, and this is a brand under the business.
Right.
Long term, yeah.
I'd say to add on that, kind of Deja with Tech SF Office of Economic and Workforce Development. what we're seeing, because we're trying to drive IT pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship programs under Google IT support and CompTIA plus advanced training as like a pre-apprenticeship for maybe more advanced training as they enter an apprenticeship program. But for the most part, IT is industry agnostic, right? And that's why it's such a great opportunity. It's like in the wake of all of these tech layoffs that happened with these like cool, trendy startups in San Francisco, the good thing about IT is that it's not defined to that sector, right? So there's a need for IT in the healthcare space, especially in the wake of COVID. Cloud computing, cybersecurity, right? To make sure that apps and data is being securely stored. So just to add on that, like it's been cool to see that kind of alliance.
I think for us, we're focused on coalition.
Yeah.
Right. We want a coalition of others that do that better, and then all buy into the ethos of skill mapping for the benefit of learners and employers. I think it's really important to do that. But again, to your point, I think what I didn't answer for you was the international piece. If I can grab some of your time afterwards, since I will go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I will, Java is Java no matter where you are. Code is code. Python is Python here or in India. It goes across international boundaries. So the skill there is very much in demand to your point. And what I love about the industry agnostic piece is that people are coming to us because I think they get a quality program architecture.
That's your core competency.
I think so, right? But I don't think that's what we should be doing long term. I think we need a coalition with others that do it better, and then just kind of like come together for complementary and supplemental programs that we can then push into colleges if that's what the student wants to do, right? Which we want them to do. Yes.
Who pays for all this?
So our largest channel right now is employer-sponsored loans. Yeah. So think the top 100 healthcare employers in the country hire us to either train their incumbent employees, or we actually do talent acquisition models for them as well. Because if you've looked at any of the job boards, like like these multi-billion-dollar healthcare systems are like, we'll give you 5,000, we'll give you 6,000, we'll give you 7,000. Like I've seen some insane sign-on numbers for certification level jobs. And so my only question to this CEO is like, you're giving a $5,000 sign-on bonus for the 3,200 open MA roles you have nationwide. Number one, who's filling all those roles? I don't think a recruiter is going to be able to do that, right? And number two, if I saved you $1,000, found the students for you, because they're going to come to us no matter what, right? Because they don't think they can go to college, or maybe college's not the right thing for them, or they've got some other thing going on. They're going to find us, they're going to come to us, and I can give them access to $70,000 a month, right? So we either like supplement their paying for it through their talent acquisition or L&D budgets. And then if the student is already done, because they got a voucher, they paid for it out of pocket, well, we give them access to our grads. Where are you at? What zip code? I've got X number of people in that zip code graduating in the next 3 months. Would you like access to their telephone numbers? Right. Same thing for colleges, because where do the enrollments come from for the next cohort, for the next start? So we're connecting our partners with our students as well. Obviously, the students opt into all of this, right? But we're connecting with them as well, so that admissions departments at colleges and universities can call up 900 to 1,000 students who requested a parchment transfer from us to transfer into a college. Well, gosh, who better to talk to than a student who literally just requested a transcript to go transfer into college? And maybe that college works for that student, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But let's at least get them talking.
Curious to know how you were partnering with, you mentioned earlier, tapping into the employer networks with university partners. How you are guiding or aiding those university partners, maybe having those employers adopt like apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship, for instance.
So I worked at the University of Cincinnati for a while, and then at Michigan University for a bit. And so one of the things that I was always involved in was the advisory boards. So at the University of Cincinnati, you've got 35 of the top 500 S&P 500 companies in that city, right? So you think like Procter & Gamble, Kroger, et cetera, right? Cincinnati Bell, et cetera. And so we would talk to all these folks, and we'd ask them, like, what are you looking for? You're an employer. That's what an advisory board is for, right? Like, what are you looking for? What can we do for you? Like, we need these skills. We need, this stuff. And you're like, okay. And the product that ultimately was always focused on was a degree, right? It was always a degree. And I say this as somebody who's worked in those college and university environments, is we ignored this level of education. We ignored it. We called it blue collar. We had a negative, like, oh, you went to tech school?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that's horrifying. Now everything's been flipped on its head, and all of those schools that I talked to that ignored this catalog for the past 25 years are now coming to us and going,
We need this.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
can we do this right now? Because all the students are looking for is this, right? That's what they're looking for. And so I tell them, well, you got two choices. You can partner with us, some or three choices. You can partner with us, partner with somebody else, or spend $40 million building your own catalog and then curating it between now and the end of time. And the dean goes.
Certifications and
Yeah.
accreditations
Yeah.
and everything else.
Yeah, and the dean and the provost are like, nah, we're not going to do that. Sorry. So we're able to launch a co-branded catalog. If I talk to you today, we can launch it tomorrow. We know the regulatory landscape. We can do crosswalks on current programs that are offered, those that might have overlap with ours, and we remove the overlap because we want the students to go to the college's programs primarily. But if there is a gap, we can fill it, right? So that's really what we're seeing. And then what ultimately happens is we're talking to those schools. We say, like, who's on your advisory board, right? And they start naming off companies. Do you think that they would be open to hiring your grads as they come through this process and in their frontline roles? Well, yeah, probably. So we get on the call with them and they say, yeah, you're our trusted academic partner. So you're now doing medical assistant? Great, we've got 3,200 open roles. We'd love to bring those people in. So it really is just a logical complement to what the school's already doing. They just may not have the product or service currently available. Some are building them. Great. Partner with us first, launch these, and when you build your own, we'll take a hike. I'm fine with that. Right? So it really is thinking about how do we complement and supplement what colleges and universities are doing to help push qualified talent into the workforce, certified qualified talent. Unless an employer wants to come to us directly, then obviously we would work with them as well. But we would want the partner to know every single one of our courses, every single one of our programs articulates the prior learning assessment credit into a regionally accredited university that we just put right on our website, right? So it's like, this is the school, this is the program, this is the degree, this is the number of credits, and based upon the cost per credit hour, this is the value of that transfer. And in many cases, the value of that transfer is higher than the cost of the program. So if you think about it from an investment perspective, going back to my investment days where I did nothing coming right out of college, right? It's an appreciating asset. Because if I spend $4,000 on a certification program, but I transfer $5,500 as a person, I made $1,500. Great, on that same asset. Ideally, the employer is sponsoring their tuition on the certification. You go work there for 2 years, become eligible for their tuition assistance policy, and then go right back to that same college and get your bachelor's degree. That's ideal.
It's interesting on advisory boards. I started Cal College Computer Science Advisory Board decades ago. Only 1.5% of the applicants in Cal Poly Slow get into computer science. 98.5% get turned down, and they're valedictorians. What the employers want is more, and they want more diverse.
Yeah.
Because it's all typical computer science programs, 15% women. And what they want is more people, and they also realize that none of the tech employers require 4-year degrees now. None of them.
Yeah.
And it drives higher ed nuts because they think they should.
Well, that was the only definition for somebody knew something, and for how long, right? I mean, since the inception. I mean, let's go all the way back to what? Padua, Oxford? Right? Like, how long has this model been around? It's been around for a long time. Nothing wrong with it. Whatever. Let's just cater to the demographic of students that want to get a real quick certification, not go into debt for it, and then go take that to an employer and say, I got these skills, any kind of, right? Or supplement their own career.
One of the greatest issues with advisory boards in higher education is higher education brings industry to the table, but they don't listen to industry. They're driving the conversation of what's happening in those advisory boards, but they're not being advised by the industry, where they're not taking that advice. of the industry.
They don't have to.
Yeah,
You're hurting cats.
yeah, but they do have to. In this day and age, they have to because they're producing individuals who can't get jobs. So that has been my greatest pet peeve in years around advisory boards. So are they really advising?
You think of like Loma Linda, right, in our neck of the woods, like, that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, you know, on 215, like, I always just go to the careers page, anybody that I'm talking to, and I just type in medical assistant, like, there's dozens of open roles, dozens, and then you type in search tech, and there's more dozens, right, and the same thing is true for every single one of them. You just wonder, like, you know, have they been telling their academic partners that this is what they need? Probably, to your point, but it just hasn't been something that's been a high priority until today, right? So again, MedSearch is just trying to create solutions that work. So we're at the intersection of, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, we're at the intersection of employers, academic institutions, workforce agencies and entities, and we just want to like operate right there in the middle and build coalition partners through what I call like that triumvirate, right? That's really important for us. So now we're taking it to the next level to say like, okay, we're one of a million. We want to separate ourselves into something where exhibitable skills can be derived from the programs that we offer and matched to labor market insights, which show exactly where the value of those skills are, which is good for learners, it's good for academic institutions, and it's good for employers. And it's obviously great for workforce there because they're kind of fitting the entire bill, right? So somebody at some point is going to go like, what did I get from my ROI on these hundreds of millions of dollars that we've spent at both the state and the federal level to upskill our populations? Well, hopefully it's something to concern. So, anyways, appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much. I could do this forever. I will spare you. But I appreciate you coming because I know you could have done a lot of things with this hour. So thanks. Have a great day.